when I was in elementary school and we had music class and we do our vocal warm-ups, she would make us sing "Mommy made me mash my M&Ms."
Oh.
So, Mommy made me mash my M&Ms. Okay, so 12-team. Oh, I haven't done that in 30-something years. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the DLF Trade Show on the DLF YouTube channel. Russ and Addison are here again to use DynastyLeagueFootball.com, the DLF Trade Finder, the DLF Trade Analyzer, to help you just be awesome, to be great, just thrive out in the universe and make some Dynasty trades. I mean, that's DLF Trade Show trades.
That's what we're here for.
That's what we're here for. So it is technically, as we record this, it is less than a month until the NFL draft. It is month minus a day. So when you are watching this, it's a month minus 2 days. So still, yes, less than a month away. And which means if you're like us in some ways, your rookie drafts are just minutes after the NFL draft concludes. And of course, the first thing you think of with rookie drafts is that 101. Because if you're not winning your league, if you're not competing, your goal is the 101. Getting the 106 doesn't usually help you all that much. So being in the middle is usually not the place you want to be. I hope we find some trades that lean both ways, because I'm very interested to see a trade where I'll be like, yeah, I'd give that up for the 101. And I'm really curious to see if there's going to be a trade where I would feel comfortable giving up the 101. I have found myself more and more on the side of that stud, like looking at Josh Allen trades. It's like, am I really giving up Josh Allen for that? Really, it's Josh Allen. Really? So I'm very curious. I'm really excited to see some of these trades. But also, I asked before we started recording, just so we don't fully frame it this way, there are some 1 QB trades. And I'm going to talk like that's Marvin Harrison Jr. But let's get into the trades. Let's just see how this goes. And this is a very interesting one to start off right away. 12-team superflex, the 101 and 206 for Justin Herbert. I've recently had this conversation of Justin Herbert or the 101. And if this was 4 months ago, that's even too far. If this was like 2 months ago, 1 month ago, whenever the Harbaugh hire even, because that's what really started the spiral, you know, the answer would have been Justin Herbert so easily. But Harbaugh comes in and everyone just knows that he likes to rush the ball more. And then Austin Eckler goes, and then Keenan Allen goes, and then say what you will, but Mike Williams is a good wide receiver. Mike Williams goes. I think I'm on the side of the 101, and I hate it because I love Justin Herbert. I think the 101, again, if the value is even, which 785 to 800 is the analyzer values. If it's even, you usually go with the pick because the pick is more versatile. The pick comes with choice. The pick comes with the ability to have a wider range of managers in your league that are interested in that over a very specific player. So if these two values are even, which I think they really still are, I'm going to side with the pick. And in this specific instance, that makes me a little sad because I want it to be Justin Herbert.
In March ADP on both Superflex and one quarterback, Justin Herbert is about 3 or 4 spots ahead of Caleb Williams. And because you got like Richardson and Kyler and Dak or Jordan Love, like those are the guys that are like in and around the difference between the two in terms of like QB7 to like QB11, basically. Now that March ADP, I think, was done. This finalized prior to all the moves, like the Keenan Allen trade and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the mocks were done by the time free agency really hit.
Right. So those aren't updated if there was any updated like drop of Justin Herbert because of that. Whereas if you look on like keep trade cut, Justin Herbert is still QB7, but Caleb Williams is QB8. So they're back to back.
Regardless of how, where, when, and why, I think it's still a very even value.
Right. So where this might just be one of those trades where it's like whichever side has that second round pick is the side you want. Because I mean, the 206 in a super flex may or may not be that great of a player, but it's going to be a decent shot. And if you know who you're drafting, or you're good at drafting somebody like there, like if you last year, that could have been Rashee Rice or Jaden Reed, or I mean, it could have even been Sam Laporta. Like that is the upside that you have with that pick. I mean, there's downside with that pick as well.
I was about to say, let's not completely rose-colored glasses this one.
Yeah, it could have been Marvin Mims or Jonathan Mingo, or a bunch of Michael Mayer potentially even too, as like somebody who's not up to par with the other guys. But that gives you an extra shot if you feel like the quarterbacks are relatively equal.
Yeah.
Now, would you do that? Would you trade Justin Herbert in hopes to get Marvin Harrison? Like, you're making this trade to get Caleb, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Like I get it. Justin Herbert's 26, but you're hitting the reset button right here. Like that's what this is.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing this for Marvin Harrison, I think that's
your quarterback room needs to be really good, dude.
Like that's a little that like I mean honestly, like I don't whatever, man. Like if you still have two quarterbacks that you feel cool rolling out there, even if they are not the equivalent of Justin Herbert, even Caleb Williams, like you're one of those people that have Marvin Harrison as your 101 and even in a super flex. Oof. Like I get that you want to get the 101 to make sure you get your guy. And again, that's part of the reason the 101 is as valuable. It's the choice. Mm-hmm. Even like, especially in a year where there isn't consensus, the 101 is sometimes worth more. And there's a little bit of choice going on right now. Again, I think it's just fatigue it's prospect fatigue, but Justin Herbert, I think even with all of these things we were talking about, is worth a strong second, if not late first, on top of Marvin Harrison Jr. for me. Next trade is little more involved and a lot more interesting. The 101, a 25 first, and Tony Pollard for CJ Stroud and Deebo Samuel. Is there a chance you remember off the top of your head if this is that team's 25 first?
I can look it up while you read the values.
Because that would be super interesting. If you're giving up your 101 and your 25 first, I get it. It's CJ Stroud. You probably have to, but man, that is resting a lot on your ability to compete this season. So the 101, 785, a 25 first, 259, Tony Pollard, 193, for a total of 1237. And CJ Stroud, 927, Deebo Samuel, 311. Well, it's 927.2 and 311.8. I say that because it gives you the complete total of 1239. So this is as even as you can get in the DLF trade analyzer. Like that is on point.
So do you want the context for these picks?
I need it. Yeah.
So that 25 first is that person's 2025 first.
The one is not theirs.
He won the league and traded for the 1.01 last offseason. Yeah.
Oh my. That makes this so much easier. I love that context because absolutely I throw a playoff future first to go get CJ Stroud. Now, don't get me wrong. Again, Caleb Williams, very, very good. CJ Stroud had one of, if not the best rookie QB season in recent memory. And I get it. The Niners are always a little iffy on how you feel about them going into the season, but Deebo has shown that while wide receiver 3 overall is not really part of his outcome anymore, like it was that 1 year, he should be solid enough, especially if the Ayuk stuff still gets a little weird. I saw on DLF today that as of now, the Niners are saying they are not fielding calls because we completely can believe everything GMs are saying right now, especially.
Yeah, a month before the draft, they're definitely not fielding calls for Brandon Ayuk.
And they would absolutely tell us if they were. Yep. So, all of that put together, I love this trade because it's young for young. CJ Stroud, 22 years old, second year in the league. And the 101, Caleb Williams, the generational prospect, the best prospect since the last best prospects we've had at quarterback. I know we get overexcited. But yeah, 25 first again. you whenever you win a league, you want to say, yeah, I'm going to win it next year too. But like you're probably making the playoffs, and you're adding CJ Stroud at the cost of nothing to your team. So we're going to call that a playoff first. And Tony Pollard, who, look, again, I said all those things about how I like the situation he's in. Dude's not going to be a top 5 running back, most likely. So all of that just to procure who some people have as a top 3 quarterback. Like, I'm seeing him go above Jalen Hurts. I don't agree with it, but I see it. And Deebo Samuel, who, if at worst, 1-to-1 replaces Tony Pollard in your lineup points-wise.
Yes.
And a 28-year-old running back is the same thing as 28-year-old wide receiver is the same thing as a 26-year-old running back, age curve-wise. So I love this trade.
Yeah, I'm absolutely moving away from Caleb Williams to go get CJ Stroud. That's so easy. And I honestly, even Deebo for a late first and Tony Pollard is not out of the range of possibilities of being, equal as well too. So if you're getting that added value bump from, the difference between Stroud and Caleb, if you cross off Deebo and the first and Pollard, it's easy, man. It just go get CJ Stroud. Go get the guy who's already done it, who you're hoping Caleb Williams turns into, right?
Yeah. So let's move on to running backs. And this is interesting. All right, good. I love these players involved. 12-team superflex, the 101 and Tua Tagovailoa for Bijan Robinson, the 105 and a 25 first. Whew. All right. The 101, 785. Tua, 622, which I agree. The 101's over Tua. For a total of 1407. Bijan Robinson, 744. The 105, 455, and a 25 first, 259. Total of 1459. So again, we're super close. This is, again, it's 3 for 2, and you're over by a little bit. But I don't know if that really matters. Like, Bijan and the 101 are close enough where you're not really paying for the higher thing. It is weirdly, now that I'm saying this out loud, that's 2 quarterbacks for maybe 1. Like the 105, maybe you can pull McCarthy if drafts go a certain, like, I'm buying the hype. Let me put it that way. I am buying the hype of McCarthy going early in the NFL draft, which might lead to him pushing Neighbors back. So the first 5 picks might be a version of the 4 quarterbacks in Marvin Harrison Jr. But still, you don't know that, and that adds a lot of risk to it. The more I'm talking about this, the more this is probably easily the quarterbacks, the 101 and Tua. I have to say, there is not a world where I trade the Superflex 101 for Bijan Robinson.
Yeah, isn't it crazy that they're 40 points apart?
Yeah. Like, I mean, I was delaying this point, but here's where we are. They're not that close for me. Bijan's the running back 1. I get that he had a garbage of a season. I get that Jahmyr Gibbs had a great season. I get that I love Breece Hall, and they're getting a real quarterback on that team, but Bijan is still Bijan, and that offense just got a whole lot better with a guy who likes to dump the ball off. So, like, I'm still putting Bijan as my running back 1. In a super flex startup, again, startup value doesn't always equal trade value, usually doesn't, but Caleb Williams / the 101 is going to go in the first round. Like, it might make it to the end, but I think once you get past those first 5-6 quarterbacks, Jefferson and Chase go off the board, you're going to get so many people just throwing Caleb Williams in there. I'm not sure Bijan is still in the first round. Like,
no, I don't think he is. He's fallen pretty hard.
And again, is it deserved based on what we saw? Yeah. Your early rounds in a startup usually are more for safety than anything else. And running backs in general aren't that safe, no less a dude coming off of the season he just did.
I mean, you said it. It's basically like, it's weird to disregard the fact that there are 2 quarterbacks basically on one side.
Yeah.
Even if you made this trade fully anticipating that you were going to take Marvin Harrison Jr. at the 1.01 and you still got Tua as your quarterback, I mean, it gives you the choice to take Caleb, where you have that power in a super flex league to just say, I have a top 10 quarterback with this pick, regardless of if you make that pick or not. That's the value that it holds. So I can't disregard the fact that there are 2 quarterbacks on that one side versus a running back, which granted is like the RB1 in Dynasty or a top 3 RB in that top tier.
Yeah.
So fantastic running back. If it's going to be one, it should be Bijan. If you want to cross off or say that the 1.05 is a quarterback, like it's Drake May there, then maybe he kind of cancels out with Tua if he goes to a good landing spot. If he's in Washington,
that's so much of a
that's a really
big if.
That's an assumption for sure. And I agree. I'm with the 1.01 and I'm with Tua on this one. I don't really understand why you make this trade on the other side.
Let's pretend you're this team from that last trade, the CJ Stroud trade we were talking about. And you have Tua, let's say you have 3 quarterbacks, and 2 of them, at least your QB2 is like Tua level, because while I love Tua and he had a great start to the season, he's still not someone I feel safe as my QB1. But let's say you have 2 quarterbacks besides Tua. You have the 101, but the rest of your team is not as strong as you want it to be. So you go and pull Bijan and Malik Neighbors, and then you have a 25 first to do whatever you want with. Like, that's not bad. I need to put that out there. Like, there's a situation where adding Bijan and Malik Neighbors is great for your team. Or if this is a league where it's 2 point for tight end receptions and you want to go get Bowers, like the 105 is probably where you have to trade up to go do that.
Right.
Assuming superflex 2 tight ends, 2 point tight ends. Again, I still very much side with the Tua and the 101. But the more I'm trying to like work my way through this, because I feel bad saying someone won, because that means I have to say that someone lost, I get it a little bit more, and it makes it seem more fun. But that still does not mean that I think you should do it.
very, very specific circumstance you just drew.
Very specific. I am trying my hardest not to upset somebody.
Yeah. 90% of teams out there, I think you just take 101 into it.
All right, so let's get to our first 1 QB trade. And it's a simple one. 101 for the 103 and Isaiah Pacheco. The 101, 825. The 103, 594. Isaiah Pacheco, 284.9. So it's 825 to 880. Let's just round it up for nice and easy. More or less even, because again, 2 for 1. You're definitely upgrading. Again, we're talking Marvin Harrison. So this is whatever order that Neighbors, Odunze, and Bowers go in, that's who you're probably getting at the 3. Do you have anyone else that might sneak into that 3rd spot?
Nope. I'm assuming that this is Odunze. So
yeah, again, in my head, it is Harrison, Neighbors, Odunze, Bowers.
Yep.
Again, I don't know if this is a 2 point premium. Maybe that does sneak Bowers up. And yeah, some people just really like certain players. But for me, you're right. This is Odunze. I want a bigger piece to make the jump from the 103 to the 101. Pacheco's nice. He's fine. But that's not what you want when we're talking downgrading from Harrison to Odunze. And again, you could love Odunze. You really can, and there's nothing wrong with that. But that doesn't, like, to me, this isn't enough value. And when you're trading away the 101, value means everything. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the fun part of doing your own rankings and believing in your players that you like. Odunze could be your wide receiver 1. That's on you. Like, that's cool. That's awesome. But the thing is, that means you don't have to use the 101 to get him. But that also means you don't take nothing-ish to move out of the 101 to get your guy. Like, you take advantage of your rankings in certain ways, but this, to me, isn't really taking advantage of anything, because I don't think Pacheco bridges that gap.
Somebody could think Pacheco bridges that. I mean, he's the RB13 in March ADP. Let me read up. I'm going to go up the list of running back names, see where the line breaks for you. Rachaad White, 1 spot above, RB12.
I mean, yes, honestly, that does.
So it's just one of those situations where it's the name.
Who else is there?
James Cook is 2 spots above. Kenneth Walker.
No.
Saquon.
Oh, yeah.
And then you get to like ETN and Kyrie.
Yeah, all of those guys are going to do it too. Yeah, again,
Josh Jacobs is 1 spot behind Pacheco. Does that change it for you? Are you just lower on Pacheco?
Oh my God, what team did Jacobs land on? The Packers, right?
Packers, yes.
Oh my God, like I know I'm not remembering these things right away. Oh, that was so confusing. No.
Jacobs would do it for me. I'm higher on Jacobs than RB.
I'm arguing with myself that there's an age thing, but no, who cares? You're gonna get 1-2 seasons of him in Green Bay. He's still good, and they brought back AJ Dillon, right? Which does not scare me at all for Jacobs losing touches. So I'm in. Yeah, I'd be in on Jacobs as well. Again, it's just the minutia of this specific player that's holding me out of it, and the numbers being what they are, I get it. And if you believe Pacheco is there for that value, cool. Me specifically, I don't do it with Pacheco there, but a bunch of those other players you named, I would.
I think that's where I'm at as well too, is where 285 points, I think that is a good bridge for the gap between the 101 to 103, especially if you are the type of person that believes that Odunze is in that top tier with Neighbors and Marvin Harrison.
Exactly.
And you don't believe that there's that much difference between the three of them. You know, you can still agree that Marvin Harrison is maybe safer or a better prospect. But if Odunze is 90% Malik Neighbors as a prospect, which a lot of signs point and indicate that he is, especially Matt Harmon just dropped reception perception. Odunze is green everywhere. He's the first green rookie wide receiver prospect that Matt Harmon has charted. So he is phenomenal as a prospect. So if you're one of those people that believe that is the case with Odunze, then I think that a player of a 285 value works to bridge that gap. And we just happen to disagree that Pacheco is that player.
Yeah.
But it's, if it's Jacobs, if it's Rashad White, if it's Kenneth Walker, then,
12 team, one quarterback. We're on to the 101 for wide receivers. The 101. The 101 for Jordan Addison, Rashee Rice, and a 25 first. Again, one quarterback. So this is Marvin Harrison Jr. at 825 for Jordan Addison, Rashee Rice, and a 25 first. Jordan Addison, 558, Rashee Rice, 452, 25 first, 291, a total of 1302. Wow, I do that for those players. Now, look. His name is Marvin Harrison Jr. That, if you're old enough, means a lot on its own. If you were cognizant of Marvin Harrison Sr. in the NFL, just being that man's child automatically makes you like this kid as a wide receiver. This very large man, as a wide receiver. If you've seen him play, you like this man as a wide receiver. If you've read about people watching him play, if you've read about people who checked his numbers, you believe he's going to be a very good wide receiver in the league. We've seen Jordan Addison do really well. We've seen Rashee Rice do really well. And 25 first is just a wonderful kicker of value to go do something with. Now, again, will Marvin Harrison Jr. be better than either of these two wide receivers? Maybe to probably. Enough for both of them. Like we talked about Rashee Rice the other day when we were talking about Hollywood.
Yeah.
Or was Rashee Rice the winner in the...
We talked about Rashee Rice because of Hollywood. Yes.
Yeah. Right. Like I firmly believe Rashee Rice is better off with Hollywood Brown on that team. So I am more in on Rice now. I've always loved Jordan Addison as a wide receiver. Yeah, it's a little worrisome without knowing who his quarterback is. But when you believe enough in a wide receiver and how good they are, usually you're not as scared about what the quarterback situation is going to be. But even still, yes, that dings his value a bit. But still, my wide receiver room has to be something special to give up these young wide receivers for Marvin Harrison Jr.
I am on board with this trade if it was just Addison and Rice for Marvin Harrison. I think the 25 first, and it's weird that like the least valuable asset in this entire trade is the trade that is the piece that's holding.
It's also not nothing.
Right. And I looked at like this is a one quarterback league, and that 25 first ended up being eighth. They were 2024 1.08. So if that's like a playoff 25 first next year, that could change how that value looks, and what player that you get overall. So when I saw that, I got less hung up on the 25 first to where I was a little bit more willing to take Marvin Harrison. But I do agree, like this, if that first swings in any closer to early next year, if Rashee Rice takes that year 2 leap, if Jordan Addison, does, even though they don't really have a good quarterback right now, but if that's Drake May or JJ McCarthy and Jordan Addison's going to play half the season without TJ Hawkinson next year. And I mean, I can continue going down, like, what if they don't re-sign Justin Jefferson and he moves on and signs with somebody else, and now Addison's the wide receiver 1 for Minnesota? Like, there are narratives and pictures that you can paint for both of those wide receivers to be really good over the next 2 years, where, like you said, like individually, Marvin Harrison Jr. is definitely better to have over each one of those guys. But when you package both of them together with an added 2025 first, that's just as a dice roll of potential, it's hard to not take the package on this one.
Yeah, like you need to be in either a very specific team situation or just really love Marvin Harrison Jr. to give up this much for him, or just really not believe in these 2 wide receivers. Like, if you think Jordan Addison and Rashee Rice are going to be wide receiver 2s and 3s for their career,
yeah, that's true.
If this was
like a 1 quarterback start 8, does that change your mind?
Yeah.
To where you more prioritize just having the 1 better asset?
Yeah, that absolutely would change things.
But if it's more of like a 1 quarterback start 10,
yeah, then you're starting Addison
or 11,
Rice,
yeah,
for sure, every week. Because the thing is, like, in a start 8, I see a situation where you're starting Rice every week. Like,
yeah.
And Addison, like, don't forget, even if you're starting 8, you still have bye weeks. You'll still have injuries. You need strong backup wide receivers. And Addison is that, but also, of course, it makes them more tradable and movable and all of that stuff. Next trade, still 12-team 1 quarterback, the 101, George Pickens, and the surging Zamir White for Amon-Ra St. Brown, the 106 and 206. The 101 still at 825, George Pickens, 322, Zamir White, surging 73, for a total of 1221. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 914, the 106, 437, the 206, 140, for a total of 1491. So the ARSB side, way ahead. And, okay, I need to slow this down a little bit. Amon-Ra or Marvin Harrison Jr.?
Amon-Ra.
Right? You would be over the moon if Marvin Harrison Jr. has done what Amon-Ra St. Brown has done. There is zero reason to believe that Amon-Ra St. Brown will change what he's been doing. So why not just have Amon-Ra St. Brown?
It could even be a boat.
It could even be a boat. George Pickens in at 322, the 106. So 1 quarterback. We've talked about this for the top end of it. So we have Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze, Brock Bowers. And then you're getting into that next tier of players.
BTJ, Brian Thomas Jr.
The worthy that I always say the wrong first name.
Xavier.
Dorsey James Worthy every single time. And so you're looking at, very, very good wide receivers. I know a lot of people are high on AD Mitchell. Like, there's a bunch of players on there. So this is absolutely a go get your guy wide receiver pick, which is pretty much the equivalent of George Pickens, right? They're probably going to be, Pickens is 23. They're going to be just as young, and so a lot of this feels like it's almost 1 for 1, because at this point, Zamir White is worth a second because they haven't brought anyone in yet.
Yeah. Yep.
And we talk about this draft like it's not really the draft that most players are going to get replaced by at the running back position. Though Zamir White to me isn't really that great.
Yeah, he could get replaced by a handful of running backs in this class, or maybe not even replaced, but he could get considerable competition.
Like he could be the 1B to a couple of these guys,
right? Or the 1A. Like if they brought in like Will Shipley or somebody like that, who is utilized more as like a pass catcher.
Hashtag Team Clemson big running back.
I don't know about big running back, but running back, yes.
He plays like it. It's fine.
Yeah. But I mean, there are situations where, like if Zamir White could be like this year's Dameon Pierce from last year, where like they brought in Devin Singletary. People didn't really expect Singletary to cut into Pierce's workload, and bada bing, bada boom, Singletary is the starting running back by the end of the year for the last 6 or 7 games. That could happen to Zamir White with a handful of running backs in this class still.
Oh man, I didn't realize he was only 5'11". Never mind, I take it back. Hashtag Team Clemson running back. I thought he was bigger than that. Like I said, he plays bigger than that. Yeah. So, but again, like I love that this is really tough because it's like you get the known in ARSB, but you get the unknown in that wide receiver over George Pickens and all the hype that's going on with him. But then that makes me say, what's the most valuable aspect of this and which would I prefer? And the answer is St. Brown. So while I understand this trade completely, and I don't think it's the 200 something points apart, just because Zamir White needs to be a little higher just based on the situation that he's in right now. I've seen him go for a mid super flex second, which I don't agree with, but I've seen it happen. So all of that being said, give me St. Brown, give me the choice of that second tier of wide receivers, because again, we'll know landing spots most likely by the time we draft and all of that stuff. So yeah, no, like I get this trade and I'm a lot more wishy-washy on it. Like I'd see this go down and be like, man, that must have been fun. Like to think this one over or to negotiate this one, because there's a lot of fun stuff in this. But if I'm making my decision, I'm taking the St. Brown side.
I'm also taking the Amon-Ra side on this one. I've said multiple times in other videos when I've talked about Marvin Harrison that it might be wise to see if you can move him for an upper echelon wide receiver like Amon-Ra St. Brown, or if you replace Amon-Ra with, if this was Lamb or Chase, or if somebody's waffling on Justin Jefferson because he doesn't have a quarterback. Like if you can use Marvin Harrison and construct some sort of deal like this to just move over to a known young wide receiver, like you're really not losing anything by doing that. In fact, you might gain some stability because Marvin Harrison, I mean, he's still a prospect. We still haven't seen him in the NFL. And
we still know what team he's on.
There's a 95% chance that he's going to be fantastic. But I mean, there is a 5% chance that maybe he doesn't. And these other players are at like 99% that they just continue doing what they're doing. So, and yeah, the 1.06 is fun. The 206 is great too. The crux of this is, I agree with you. It's Amon-Ra versus Marvin Harrison. And I just want Amon-Ra St. Brown. There was another deal in the Finder that was Superflex, Amon-Ra, and Drake London for the 101 and 111. So there's a Superflex side of it too for you with Amon-Ra.
Yeah, that's rough.
I think I still take Amon-Ra on that one.
I think I do too. Like if that second first was
higher,
not like, again, I don't think you're getting that into that top tier, but if it was like the one, like if it was that first pick outside, like if it was the 108, the 109, where you get your choice of that guy after that Bowers, like you get your choice of Worthy or Thomas or whoever else you want to put in there. Yeah.
I think it's got to be higher because, I mean, you just mentioned that when you read off ADP that like Odunze and London were basically neck and neck. So that's the 106.
Yeah.
So I think you got to go higher than that. I take Amon-Ra in that one.
Yeah, I think I do too. But to also put that out there that we forget every single time, we still have one spot left in our Watcher League. It is on myfantasyleague.com. It is a 24 team, 2 copy, pretty vanilla league after that. Superflex, PPR, tight end premium. But, you know, lots of chances to trade for players because there's 2 copies of all of them.
Which all that means for the people that don't know is that we essentially have 2 12-team leagues.
Yes, in one league.
Yeah. But you have the ability of, if you want to go trade for somebody, you have 2 people that you can trade with.
Correct. The only thing is you can't have 2 copies of the same player on the same team.
Although that would, imagine if you could do that though, that would be fun.
You have like 2 Josh Allens as your quarterback. Like I've always been on record as saying no one trade could break a league, but if you made a trade to give one team a second copy of Josh Allen, you may have broken the league.
Yeah, maybe.
So comment on the video, DM Addison, DM me, let us know if you're interested. Once we fill that, we'll have a 4-team dispersal go on, and we'll get that rookie draft real quick after the NFL draft. Just why not? we traded away our first because we won anyway, so it doesn't matter. So it doesn't really matter when the draft starts for us.
Nope, it does not. So if you want to try and beat us, you can give it a shot. But
try. On that note, this has been the DLF Trade Show on the DLF YouTube channel. Russ Fisher, Dynasty Outhouse, Addison Hayes at Maze Hayes _. We'll catch you next time.